Thank you so much, Dr. Srinivasan. Really appreciate this collaboration with VIT and you. And thanks to you, we've been able to reach out to such talented students at VIT. I want to also thank Dr. Parv Subramaniam, Venkat Subramaniam, who's with us today. And I really appreciate everybody coming together. I'll just start off with his bio and then give it over to him to take the session forward. So Dr. Parv has earned his BTech in electrical engineering from IIT Madras. He's also pursued his MS and PhD in electrical engineering from Cornell University. Parv served as a visiting postdoctoral researcher at the University of California at Berkeley. And I'll talk a little bit about his research interests now before handing it over. Dr. Parv's research interests are in developing theoretical foundations for privacy in networks. Specifically, he applies tools in statistical signal processing, information theory, game theory to study fundamental trade-offs between privacy and performance in networks under different adversarial conditions. He's also interested in studying anonymity in a more general category of network systems, such as peer production, smart grid networks, and transportation systems. His doctoral research was in the area of wireless sensor networks, specifically on distributed multiple access communication and statistical inference in large networks. You can find more details about his research interest, etc., on the Lehigh University's website. Lehigh is a comprehensive university in the United States, one of the top ranked universities, according to US News and World Rankings, we're ranked about 60th in the United States. Lehigh has 5 colleges. One of our really strong colleges is the P.C. Rosen College of Engineering and Applied Sciences. And Dr. Parv is a faculty member at the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, as well as the director of the MS in Data Science program. So I'll give it over to Parv and let him talk about the program and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anu and Dr. Srinivasan. It was a very, very kind introduction from both of you. So let me maybe start by sharing the short presentation about the data science program, a little bit about Lehigh, a little bit about our faculty, and so on. And if any of you have questions during the presentation, you can type it down in the chat, or you could just wait till the end and then ask the questions, and we're more than happy to address that. So let me maybe jump right in, share my screen. I know you've all made time to come on during the holidays, and I really appreciate that. And I can also see that you're interested in this program, otherwise you wouldn't be showing up here. So I assume everybody can see my screen, right? Okay, great. So this is an exciting new program. So we started this program last year, although we've been putting it together for a few years before that. I usually begin by saying it's a very lovely morning here, but I know it's like late 6:30 p.m. in the evening, and so it doesn't apply to all of you, but next time this year it could. So as both Anu and Dr. Srinivasan mentioned, I'm a professor in the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. My name is Parvathinathan. One of the first things that happened to me when I moved to this country 20 years ago, that it got shortened to Parv. I'm okay with it. So my background, as Anu mentioned, is in signal processing, information theory, but what I'd like to say is it's data science before data science became this big buzzword. So I do a lot of data science. In fact, I do statistical inference, machine learning, but a lot of it is focused on cybersecurity, privacy, and engineering more broadly. Right? The fact that all of you are here and all of you are excited about this program is great for us to hear, but it's also not very surprising. Data science is very current. It's very popular. And I think many of you have heard of a reasonable amount of data science, I would imagine. You've heard all the big buzzwords. You've heard machine learning. You've heard statistics, visualization, data mining, statistical inference, all of those things, right? All of those big buzzwords you've all heard. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're here. Another big catchphrase you may have heard is big data, right? So if you look at a lot of positions that are advertised for careers in data science, you'd see that they'll ask for experience with big data, right? So, some of you may have the question, what's the difference between big data and data science? So they're all related in some sense. Big data is part of data science. The easiest way to sort of think about this is, when you talk about data science or data itself, where does all this data come from, right? A lot of it goes through the internet, right? There's through your phone, through your mobile devices. I'm sure some of you are accessing this Zoom meeting through your mobile devices. Just to give you a perspective of this big data in terms of numbers, the total data that was accessed last year was close to 80 zettabytes, right? A zettabyte, as you know, is a billion terabytes. And a terabyte, as you know, is a billion kilobytes and so on. So it's a pretty large number, shortly speaking. We as people perform roughly 6 billion searches a day, right? And that's just searches, and that's not counting any of the other services that you're accessing that you see on the screen, right? It's possible many of you saw this webinar advertised to one or more of these platforms. And all of this is just the internet, and internet is not the only source of data, right? Data is everywhere. It's in every industry: manufacturing, infrastructure monitoring, healthcare, education, energy. I mean, you name a domain, data science is there. The list can be endless. So at Lehigh, we have faculty who are working in data science or applying data science to all of these areas, right? So, and the reason is there's a whole lot of data that's collected. A lot of it is streaming. They're stored, they're processed, they're done online, they're done offline processing, right? So, I mean, all of this is really to say that no matter what your background is or what your interests are as far as your career, your ambitions are concerned, data science is relevant to you, right? It's going to be important to any and all of your professional aspirations, right? So it's not surprising that the term data scientist is one of the top jobs in the country, right? If not the world. So 10 years ago, the chief data scientist of the US, right? His name was DJ Patel. He called it the sexiest job of the country, and the field has lived up to that. So for 7 years running, data science is rated as one of the top 3 jobs by Glassdoor.com. If some of you don't know what that is the top portal for career information, right? Just this summer, there was a report from Glassdoor that the new generation, which is really all of you, prefers this job. And there are many reasons, but I'll tell you 3. 1, the salaries are highly competitive. There's a lot of flexibility in the work. And 3, it's not just a labor intensive where you just go in and do sort of something like a factory work. There's plenty of room for creativity, right? And lastly, I mean, if you take all the highly preferred employers, your Fortune 500s and whatnot, many, if not most of them, are looking for data scientists, right? So no, as I said, the data science program that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes is a new program, right? We started it last year, so we don't have data as far as what the job placements of our current cohort is concerned. They're all in the market as we speak. But at Lehigh, we've had graduate students, both MS and PhD students, work in the area of data science, because we as faculty have been working in data science for a long time. And so we've had students work with us, and many of our graduate students, MS and PhD students, have gotten placed in many of the top companies in the world, some of which you see listed on this slide, right? And so many of them are today actual practitioners of data science in the industry. Now, in our internal career systems this year, so far we have roughly 400 internships and about 1,200 or more full-time positions that are related to data science that have been posted, right? And these are some of the example companies. As you can see, you have everything ranging from computer networking to finance, consumer packaged goods, construction, fashion, food, accounting, many, many more, right? So what are these positions, right? What are these positions? Well, if you were to look at what the skill set that you'll be getting from this program is concerned, then there are a bunch of different kinds of career positions that are relevant. The topmost are the top two that you see: data scientist, data analyst. And then there's data engineer, data architect, machine learning engineer, statistician, business analyst. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on the business analyst because we also have another program on business analysis at Lehigh, right? But you may wonder what is the difference between all of these. And I'm not going to sort of spend the next amount of time talking about this, but I'll just give you a slight sense, which is that the difference between data scientist, data engineer, and data architect is similar to the difference between a scientist, an engineer, and an architect, right? So in short, I mean, the role of a data scientist is to take data, answer questions. What does the data say? What decisions should be made? What insights can be derived? Can it reason about a particular circumstance? What is the kind of actionable intelligence you can get from the data, right? So this requires you to understand how to use data, how to clean data, how to process it, and how to reason about it. So then what's a data engineer? So a lot of what the data scientist requires is building the tools, building the software, building the hardware, the technology to accomplish all these tasks, right? And data comes from various sources. How do you put these things together? So think of it this way: if a data scientist drives the vehicle from source to destination, the engineer builds the vehicle and the roads, right? Now, so then what is data architect? That's another example, right? So again, data comes in various shapes and formats. It's stored in various different places. They're all related to each other in many different ways. Big data is big for a reason. And all of this needs storing, maintenance. We need to be able to visualize this in a way that allows us to reason about it. So, and a lot of decision-making relies on how data is presented, right? If you can see it, you can talk about it. That's really the way to think about it, right? Now, if you haven't heard all of this, I know all of this may sound very daunting, especially if you've not handled data before. But what I'm here to tell you is that all of this requires just building, developing a skill set. It's something you can learn, something you can practice, something you can deploy out in the world, right? So the fact is, and we truly believe this at Lehigh, which is that no matter what your background is, what industry you're interested in, or what your background is, engineering, science, philosophy, politics, whatever it is, what we are providing is the learning and understanding of the tools. What our program will give you is the skill set to use data to push your field in whatever direction is suitable, right? So with that as sort of the backdrop, let me jump right in and tell you a little bit about our program, about Lehigh, and so on. So this program, one of the sort of highlights is that doesn't belong to a single discipline. It's not a program that just belongs to computer science. It's not a program that belongs to statistics, not a program that belongs to electrical engineering. It's an interdisciplinary program. And it was founded by three of us, aside from me. There's Professor Brian Davison, who's currently the department chair of the computer science department. And then there's Professor Daniel Robinson, who's in the industrial and systems engineering, and he's the director of their master's programs, right? So three of us spent a fair amount of time put together this program. And not just that, if you look at the teachers, the instructors who are going to be handling all your core courses, they also don't belong to a single department. There's Professor Blum and Professor Zhang, who are from the electrical and computer engineering department. They teach the core courses in the statistics, statistical inference, and in the hardware handling. And then there's Professor Frank Curtis, who teaches the optimization course, who's from the industrial science engineering department. And then Professor Shia and Professor Baumer, who teach the courses in machine learning and ethics. And finally, there's Professor Masood Yari, who is a practicing data scientist who's a teaching faculty primarily for the data science program, right? Now, not only are all of these faculty great educators, but they're also great researchers in the field of data science. They're highly published. Many of them have won distinguished awards from the top international organizations in their field, right? So that's the education that you'll be getting in our program. So now, before I give you the details of the program itself, let me talk to you a little bit about Lehigh. I mean, Anu already gave an introduction to Lehigh University, and so did Professor Srinivasan. So Lehigh is actually located in a very beautiful area, right? It's in the Lehigh Valley. It's beautiful at this time of the year in winter. It's beautiful in fall. It's beautiful in summer. We have 3 campuses. There's the main campus where you'll be taking most of your classes. Then there's a campus on the mountaintop where where the computer science, data science departments are. And then there's a campus on the other side of the mountain, which houses many of our sporting events and some engineering things too. It's, as Anu mentioned, ranked in one of the top schools, especially in engineering. We have over 5,000 undergraduates, over 2,000 graduate students, which is not a large number, but we have so many faculty that it makes our education much more tightly knit. So the faculty to student ratio is one of the most attractive things that you have about Lehigh University. So the program and myself, both of us are in the PC Rawson College of Engineering, which has over 150 full-time faculty members. We generate more than half of Lehigh's PhD students. So we are, safe to say, one of the top, the biggest colleges of the university. And our faculty, as I already mentioned, they're highly reputed in their fields. One useful stat to have is almost a third of our engineering faculty are recipients of the Career Award from the U.S. National Science Foundation. The Career Award is a very prestigious award given for research progress in the U.S. Right. Okay, so now let me tell you a little bit about the program. Right. So this is a master's program in data science. It has 30 credits, which means you take 10 courses. Each course has 3 credits each. It's an interdisciplinary program, which is something I've already mentioned before, but it's still worthwhile emphasizing. The core courses are taught by faculty in 3 different departments, as I mentioned, but our electives can come from across the university, and they do come from across the university, not just inside the College of Engineering, but other colleges also. Right. So it's a technical program, right? Which means for students to get in, we do require that they have some math and computing background. It doesn't require that you know something about data science. You can know absolutely nothing about data science to apply to this program, but some basic skills are necessary in math and computing. It's a very flexible program, which means you can complete it in 1 year. So it's there's an intense 1-year version of it where you'll take 2 courses in summer, 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring, and you'll be done by May. But you can do it longer also. You can do it in 1.5 years. And if your visa permits and you can do part-time education, then you can do it much longer than that. We have students who can take it as slow as 1 course a semester. It's available both online and in person. All of our core courses and some of our electives are offered in hybrid fashion. And so that makes it even more flexible. Okay. Now, I talked a little bit about the background that is required, and here's something a little more specific. We do require that our students have a good GPA. In terms of specific backgrounds, we expect that students come in with 2 semesters of calculus, 1 course in probability and statistics, 1 course in linear algebra or linear methods, and some introductory programming course, right? Now, we don't require GRE, it's waived for this year, so you don't need that to apply to the program. Now, if in case you're missing, say, 1, maybe 2 prerequisites, right? So for instance, you don't have a course in linear algebra, then we do offer associate admission, which means it's a conditional admission, which means you come here saying that you will complete that 1 prerequisite at Lehigh, and then you'll be eligible for the program. And depending on which prerequisite you're missing, it'll be a conversation between you and somebody from the admissions committee to find out how to make it work. Right. Okay. Now, all of you are international students, so you would be required to take the English proficiency, either the internet-based TOEFL or the IELTS, and these are the requirements that we have. Again, here, if you're missing or not, if you did not pass the bar in maybe 1, say for instance, we do have sometimes students who don't meet the threshold in, say, writing, then there are two options. You either retake it so that you cross the bar, or there is a 1 credit course that you can take at Lehigh so that you can overcome that requirement. And the admissions committee will provide those options. Now, so the cost of the program, which is one of an important number, it's $1,500 per credit, which means it's about $45,000 for the whole program. Now, there are no research assistantships or teaching assistantships for master students. They're usually reserved for our doctoral students. That being said, students who come here and are doing academically well often find research projects with faculty. In our current cohort, we have at least 2 or 3 students who are doing that, and they work with the faculty. We always have some kind of projects or other that are going on that provide some sort of support towards your program. Now, as far as the program admissions itself is concerned, we do have a limited number of scholarships. It's a partial scholarship, and it gives up to 30%, and it's available for strong full-time students who are admitted to the program. Lehigh alumni have other sources, but the college itself tracks some opportunities, both for jobs that are campus placements and jobs on campus, as well as some sort of scholarships, and it's available in the finance admin website. So now, let me spend a few minutes giving you sort of the details of the program, or just a little bit of a deep dive into what this program is about. So as I mentioned earlier, it has 7 core courses and 3 electives. And the core courses, you can think of them as divided into sort of 3 big buckets. There's the mathematical side, there's the introduction to mathematical and optimization foundation, statistics, and statistical and machine learning. And then there's the software side, which is the foundation of data science. There's algorithms and software and machine learning, and the data management for big data. And then there's also the hardware side, which is, or rather the big data side. So there's one of 2 choices. You either take the big data management course, which sort of tells you how data is distributed computing and processing. And then there's the accelerated computing course, which tells you how to use modern hardware to speed up the processing to handle all of that big data. Right? And then there's 3 electives. So what you see here on this slide is the 1-year version of the program. So you have 2 courses in summer, 4 courses in fall, and 4 courses in spring, and then you'll be done. Now, if you want to take it slightly slower, there's the 1.5-year version of the program. So one of the advantages of doing it in 1.5 years is that you can use the summer that comes in between to do an internship, right? Okay. So this, I talked to you about the 7 core courses. This is a list of possible electives. It's a lot to read. It's more, what I want to sort of get across in the slide is that it's spread across the engineering college. There's also, this is not an exhaustive list, by the way. We also have courses, for instance, from the College of Health. We have courses from the College of Arts and Sciences that can also serve as electives. Now, not all of these courses will be offered every semester, but nevertheless, there will be enough of this offered that it will make your program tailored to what your interests are, to what your desires are, what your plans are for your future, right? So with that, let me come to my concluding slide, which is important dates, right? So the applications have been open since September, so you can apply right away. I think Anu will tell you something about the application fee waiver. The application deadline for all international students is April 15th, but I will say, please don't wait that long. The earlier you apply, the earlier you can start this process going. And as an international student 20 years ago, I know what all processes are involved, and I've had my share of visa issues over the last some years. So I would encourage all of you who are interested to apply as soon as possible. Also, the other thing is we have a limited number of scholarships. So if you want to be eligible for it, the earlier you apply, the better it is. The program starts officially on July 3rd of next year. And if you take the 1-year version on May 18th of 2024, you could graduate with a degree in data science. So with that, I'm going to stop the formal part of this Zoom meeting. I know I've probably told a fair amount. We have recorded this presentation, so if I did go too fast, or if there's some detail that you did, you can always go back to the video that will be shared with you.
Parv, I have a quick one here. You talked about the summer start, and I wanted to bring in Dr. Srinivasan also to say, like, will the students be able to start on July 3rd, given like the final year students? So I think he's the right person to also tell us when will the exams get over, when will the students get their final transcripts, and how does that work on Lehigh side? Dr. Srinivasan?
Yeah, the final transcripts will be available for the students as soon as they finish their exams. It will not take much time. Yeah, that is not an issue.
And when do they end when do the students finish their like final year, like final semester?
Month of April end they will complete.
Okay. So I think if the program starts in July, I think, Parv, I just for everybody's knowledge, I've worked at the US Embassy. I've not worked in the visa section, but I've worked a lot with students. So it's really important to apply early, no matter which university you plan to, apply to. And if you're looking at a July start for any program, all the more important that you get your application in quickly, get to know the decision. You cannot apply for a US visa more than 120 days before your program start date. So you have to pace yourself accordingly. An early application and early decision will help you and aid you in streamlining your visa process. So it's highly, highly recommended for the United States. Yeah, over to the other to all the other important academic questions.
Yeah, actually, I'm open to questions, and I'll just add one point to the international. Our international scholars office will work with the students. They're very friendly. They'll do what's best to help this process go smoothly. We've had many complicated sort of scenarios before, and they've always come through with what is needed.
So, dear students, you please feel free to ask any questions. It's a very rare opportunity to have one-to-one meeting with our colleagues from Lehigh University. And if you have any problem in audio, you are most welcome to post your postings in the chat box. So our colleagues will take over and they will answer for your queries. So also, see, organizing this kind of webinar requires a lot of time and energy. We planned well in advance, and then time synchronization is also very important. So we taken a lot of effort to organize such this, and yeah. So Sanu, on behalf of students, and even before this webinar also, I have received some questions from students. The two questions. One is, what are the scholarship opportunities? And because some of our students from middle class and lower middle class background, and they are using their parents' money, and also they are getting loan from the bank. And if any scholarship is specifically available for them, particularly in the data science, huge number of students showing interest to start their career in data science, and that would be one. And the second question, and is there any now support and help available if students facing any difficulty in submitting their application, to whom they should contact? And because it is very common, the students they are learning, and sometimes they make any kind of mistakes, or they need clarifications before submitting their documents, and what is most important. Then third one, and what CGPA you are expecting, because some of our more intelligent students, unfortunately, due to COVID and other reasons, they have some low CGPA. Otherwise, they are very much competent and very intelligent. They are very good in language. Due to COVID, they were at home, and they could not interact with the teacher properly. So it's a video online class is fine, but meeting the person, then they could not contact properly with their own friends in the classroom. So these three questions. Yeah. Number one,
Okay, thank you, Dr. Singh. Yeah.
assistance. Third one is the kind of
CGPA.
yeah. Then fourth one also I'll add, because
Go ahead.
the language test, what actually you are expecting, and so these are the very common questions often
Sure.
we receive with students. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that. So for the first question, we do have a limited number of scholarships. It's not a lot, and it's usually reserved for the top students, academically speaking. But that being said, once students get here, they do have opportunities do come up for faculty who are looking for short-term research projects. So as I said, I mean, there's at least 3 students in our current cohort who are working on research projects with faculty. Now, usually research is a doctoral student thing, but data science is this field where everybody requires some sort of, data scientific help. And so this program, in some way, one of the things that's attractive for faculty at Lehigh is that we get this pool of students who are building the skill set that is applicable to so many other faculty, that we see this becoming more and more attractive in that sense. So I cannot give you sort of a very concrete answer, except that opportunities exist, and that's the best I can say as far as scholarship. And then there's also campus jobs and things like that that keep getting advertised. We have a portal, like a department that tracks all of that, puts forth all of those things for students to see and access. The second question you had was difficulties about application process. So I'm going to put up an email address, which is purely for the purpose that you mentioned, which is help with applying to the data science program. So I've put that email address on the chat box. It's nmsts@lehigh.edu. There's not, I mean, I check that email from time to time. We have another administrative person who checks it from time regularly. So whatever question a student has as far as the application or the program itself, right, doesn't have to be necessarily specific to the application. Anything related to the program, you can just post it there, and we'll be happy to help students through. The third question you had was about, I forget. Sorry.
CGPA and
CGPA.
language tests.
Okay, got it. So the CGPA we require is 3.0 out of 4. Now, that's I understand the COVID thing. I think I'd be a fool if I didn't admit that we are facing some of the same sort of issues. We're still coming out of COVID. We've had students who've gone through that, so I completely understand that. Now, what I would encourage students who don't meet the CGPA threshold is to spend more time on their statement to maybe explain where things are not up to the mark, right? Maybe see, CGPA is a very reductive number, right? It's like this one number that somehow magically captures everything you did, and it isn't, right? We don't use that as a sort of one window to value an application. We look at it very holistically. But that being said, if, for instance, there is one particular semester that really brought down a student's CGPA, and there's a reason for it, and a student can talk about that in their statement, we do read all of this very carefully, right? And so that kind of thing allows us to evaluate the application in a better way. That gives us a frame to understand what's going on deeper than just this reductive number. So that's the one recommendation I can give. Sometimes if you have a lower CGPA and you have other sorts of project kind of experience that are relevant to the program, then that always, we take that into account also. So that's the answer I have for the CGPA. And the last one is the TOEFL IELTS, right? So let me maybe just go back to that slide with the requirements. Yeah, so this is, the students have to either do the TOEFL or the internet-based TOEFL or the IELTS. And what I've listed here is the minimum threshold in each of these categories, right? Now, the exceptions to this are the following. One, if, for instance, as I mentioned, if one of these thresholds is not met, right? So if a student probably didn't do well in the speaking, for instance, then it doesn't mean that the application is rejected, right? If the academic standing of the student is good enough to be in the program, then there is a way to move forward. One is, we give two choices. One is the student can retake the test and send us the new scores, or once they get here, there's we have the education department that offers these 1-credit courses to overcome the threshold. Now, see, the one of the things is this is a program where, both writing, speaking, all of these aspects are important to the success of the student through this program. And we'd like to do what's best to make that happen.
There were a couple of questions on that. So there was a question on Duolingo, and as far as my discussions with the associate dean are concerned, I don't think Duolingo is accepted at Rosin. So I just want to clarify to everybody that Duolingo is not accepted at the Rosin College of Engineering at Lehigh University. There was a question by Deepak on his CGPA being 2.9 on 4, and I think you've already answered that use the statement of purpose and to use all the other projects, experiential learning opportunities or internships you've done to demonstrate how you'll be a good fit for the program. I think those were some related questions. And then there was this student who asked that, another related question on the CGPA was, how do I convert the CGPA to a scale of 4? I believe at VIT they get scored out of 10. So how do they convert it? It's not, he's saying he's not sure if it's a direct mathematical conversion. So I think
usually it's a direct mathematical conversion. There are, I know of students who do a little more sophisticated by changing the grade values and so on, but I think a direct mathematical is sufficient usually.
Great. And there was a student from a mechanical engineering background who asked if he would be able to join this program. And I guess the answer is obvious, but I'll let you please respond.
Yeah, I think a student can apply to the program. Mechanical engineering, as far as I know of the curriculum, does provide the necessary background with the mathematical courses and so on. And programming is probably the only thing that may or may not be there, but I assume it's there in all engineering programs. So yeah, the eligibility is definitely there. Now, I can tell that in our current cohort, we have students we have one student from mechanical engineering, we have 2 from civil engineering, we have a student from physics. So it's, yeah, definitely do apply.
That's great. There's another question from Balaji who asks about what besides the CGPA and GRE and IELTS scores can give an applicant a higher chance for admission. Can you tell me what other things you look for in a student's profile?
So the application has all of this, which is the specific. So the CGPA, again, as I said, is a number. We also look very carefully at the academic transcript, which is to see how you've done well in courses that are relevant, or at least courses that are more technically advanced, right? So the performance in those courses adds value. There's the statement of purpose. There's other kinds of projects that you've done either within the curriculum or outside the curriculum. There's the reference letters from faculty. All of these are valued together. I think there's also a question on international transfer. So at the moment, we don't have such a 2+2 transfer with the VIT. So at least this year, I think whatever application it would be for the full program.
Yeah, yes, I completely agree with you. Right now, we don't have 2+2 transfer program with Lehigh, and maybe in future we develop such articulation, and we can open up this pathway for VIT students, all campus of VIT students, to choose Lehigh for a 2+2 pathway. That we will definitely work out, and we need discussions or approvals in this regard. We just start this cooperation a few weeks back, and then Ms. Anu also visited VIT in the month of September, and we started this interaction, and she met all our officials, faculty members. She took a lot of efforts to bring this cooperation with VIT campuses. And so then after that, we planned, even we proposed a MOU, general MOU, and also we planned series of webinar. So that's why we are here in this. This is the third one in this series. And sure, we definitely will plan 2+2, and not only 2+2, 3+1+1, and 3.5 and 1.5. So whatever it suits for both the universities, and most importantly for the students' interest. So whatever suits for students' interest, that we will work out and we will introduce, and when it is ready, we will announce to you. If you are eligible, you are most welcome to apply for this.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. That's wonderful to note. There's another question of a student who sent me a private message asking about job opportunities in data science. And I think that's a really important question, Parv. So I know you showed us a slide of some of the job placements, but I would love for you to go over it again and talk a little bit about, the salaries and the different avenues, different roles in which students, could pursue after this program.
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. So data scientist is one of the topmost jobs, in that it's one of the most popular jobs. If you look in our portals, so Lehigh has the career services department that has connections with many companies, a few thousand companies, and they specifically advertise for positions through a Lehigh portal. And students apply through that portal. They visit, the companies visit campus for career fairs where you're able to talk to recruiters, provide your resumes. Now, for data science alone, so this year, so which started in September, in a couple of months, our portal was populated with about 1,300 or so. I think it's probably more now. The last I checked was in October. It's about 1,300 or so positions that are relevant to data science. And of those positions, I think the most common was data scientist and data analyst. Those were sort of the two. So you'd find a lot of positions that are titled data scientist or data analyst. And then there are some that are data engineers, machine learning engineers, and there's also a lot of business analysts too. And the companies are very varied. It's not like there is data science specific companies. That's what makes this field very attractive. Every company in every field has a requirement today for a data science specialist or a data analyst or somebody who knows how to handle data and how to use data for the benefit of the operations. Now, as I said, we don't have data for this program because we are yet to graduate our first batch who will leave in May. But in my own personal experience, so my PhD students who graduated in the last, I guess, 7 or 8 years, all of them are data scientists today. I mean, it's not that, my field has data science, but all of them are data scientists today, and they joined big companies from Google, Samsung, Apple, Facebook, national labs, and so on. So it's a very attractive career path, no matter what domain or industry that you're interested in. And one other thing I'll also add is not only does our career services department connect you to employers, potential employers, and allow advertisement for positions, but they also provide services for professional development, which means they'll sit with you, work on your resume, they'll provide interview preparation, they'll work with you to understand how to use social networking and or rather just networking to get in touch with employers and so on, right from, simple things like LinkedIn to something more advanced. So and they have dedicated people who do this for master's students. And at the data science program, I personally worked with them to get the benefit of all of that for our students.
Fantastic.
I saw one question on the MS in data science from Pragnya. So if you already have a sort of a data science program, now, unfortunately, Lehigh doesn't have a transfer program. I think it's partly related to what we mentioned, Dr. Srinivasan mentioned earlier. There is no sort of transfer, which means you complete half a degree somewhere else and half a degree here. That being said, if you do have a prior experience in data science and you've completed courses, what that would do is it would eliminate some core courses. So you may not, for instance, if you already have a data science background, you don't need to do the introduction to data science course. If you've done a course on statistical inference, then you might not need to do the statistics, basic mathematical optimization course. So which means it would free up those credits to take electives, things that you want to specialize in, right? So that makes your program richer because you're already in the background, which means you won't be doing things that are redundant. But nevertheless, you still have to complete the full program, which is complete the 30 credits. It doesn't take away from that. It just makes your program more flexible for you.
There's a question on the visas, and I think well, I can talk a little bit about this, Parv, about whether students need to find a job within 90 days. So, and I won't go into the depths of it because I think this is best answered by the International Student Services Office. If you could drop in an email to me, and Parv, one of us can respond to you in detail about this. But yes, there are regulations around finding a job. There is something called CPT and OPT. CPT refers to curricular practical training, refers to internship opportunities you can take up during the period of your degree, let's say a fall or a summer when you have vacations. If you could pursue some kind of internships, that comes under CPT. What you're referring to is OPT, optional practical training. Students work on an OPT card after they finish their studies, and you have to apply for an OPT permit. Our International Student Services Office, ISSS, supports all international students to get those permits, fill their applications, and helps them understand the whole sort of, job situation post-graduation and whatever is legally required. You don't start looking for a job after you complete. You start looking for a job while you're in the program. You start your networking. You start with talking to faculty members who could connect you to right opportunities, or the Center for Career and Professional Development that Dr. Parv spoke about, right? So you start that networking when you're in the degree. So it's not like it's a race that it starts right at the end of the program. You start working towards it well ahead of time. And hundreds of students and thousands of students have done that. And with a qualification in data science, I personally think that it really sets you up for success. It's one of the largest growing fields in this. It's a high demand field. So if you're a competent student, speaking generally, I don't see that finding a job is going to be a concern at all. But I'll let Parv add to that, please.
So the question is about the visa after an OPT, right? I mean, so as far as my knowledge is concerned, this is a STEM degree. So which means the OPT doesn't expire in like 90 days or something. It does give time, but I think I agree with Anu that the moment you start your program, a few months in, this is something you're going to have to start, because a master's program isn't a very long program. It's a year and a half. So the earlier you get started, and we do provide all the resources that you need. And the more you do, the better placed you will be. And as far as positions and opportunities, they're only increasing, they're only growing. It's not, this is the right time to be in this field.
I think part of the question, very well said, the question was around finding a job. So there is that 90-day period in which they have to find a job. Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right that, it's a STEM degree, designated degree, and students will have 3 years to work, and then H-1B and other things, which I don't want to comment about. But yeah, I mean, yes, as Dr. Parv said, that it's a high demand job, and Lehigh education will set you up for success to find a good opportunity.
So let me also drop my own personal email address. I know I did the more general one, but you can, if you want to reach out to me directly, then please feel free to do that. And that's my email address. I'm usually good with email. Within a day, you should hear back from me, accounting for the time difference and all that.
Maybe we can take a couple more questions, because before ending it, we're in good time.
Yeah.
Just
Yes. Any more questions? We'd be happy to take it on clarification. And the email ID of both of our esteemed guests available here, and you can take a note of it. And so the email is very convenient way of communicating with the guest, that you can post it. So we will definitely continue this interaction. And if no more question, and Ms. Anu, you can please thank our professor, and you can conclude the session. So one more question is coming from Mr. Balaji. Yeah, we can take it.
Yeah. So aside from the data science masters, we do have a master's in computer science. So the computer science department offers its own master's of the Master of Science degree. And also we have the industrial systems and engineering department, which has a master's electrical engineering. And as I mentioned, there's also the business analytics master's that's offered by the College of Business, which all of these are sort of relevant from a systems point of view.
Yes, thank you for this offer of application fee waiver. Students can please utilize this good opportunity, and they won't charge any application when you apply to Lehigh for this fall 2023 admissions. And so good opportunity, you take it. You can also pass this. The students, some of the students, they applied, they registered for this webinar. Unfortunately, for one or other reasons, they could not attend. So students who attended, if you know any friends, you can pass this information: application fee waiver, scholarship, OTP and STEM opportunities, and opportunities in data science, placement opportunities. So looking at this slide, all these are very reputed companies, global companies, all very reputed global companies. So if you join any one of these companies after completing your studies in Lehigh, that would be a golden opportunity, and your future is really guaranteed. And the names are very, top companies, and these companies doesn't need any kind of introduction. You know very well what actually where they are standing in the global arena. So it is very impressive. Lehigh is sending such wonderful students as an employee of these companies. So VIT also associate with these companies, and so our students know very well about this. Yeah.
So, actually, I think you mentioned a very valid point, Dr. Srinivasan, which is that we have alumni. Most of our contacts from the career services comes through our alumni. And one of the things that at least the professional development team encourages is that whatever companies you're applying, identify like alumni at Lehigh, and they'll help you get in touch with them. And that's usually much more helpful than just, a blind application.
Yes, correct. So that's really good. Yeah. So one more question from our participant: how much time to get F1 visa present time?
So our international office usually recommends applying at least before 90 days of the program start, so that it gives us enough time. 60 days is sort of the bare minimum, but I wouldn't wait that long, just to give time. And I know that, scheduling visa interviews and all of that has gotten more challenging post-pandemic.
Yes.
But hopefully those issues are going to you might face lesser of those issues than our current cohort of students, but they all managed to do it in time. One point of flexibility, should things get delayed, is the advantage of our program is that we do have this hybrid mode. So in case something delays and you can only get here before fall, then you can still complete your summer course online while you are planning to be here. So we did have at least 2 students who did that. So they did sort of one of their courses when they were international, and then they got here in time for the fall start. So I wouldn't recommend that option, because I think if you want the full sort of benefit of what you're doing, you should get here in time for the summer start. But should something delayed, then options are there.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. We are very hopeful you will join on time with the Lehigh. And what I heard from our embassy, US embassy friends, and they're giving a priority for student visa processing. That is happening now. So they are keeping low priority for visitors visa B1, B2, F1 and J1 visas, F1 and even H1, L. All these categories are gearing up, except B1 and B2. Those are applying for B1, B2, they have to wait. But they also start to process those, but they are giving up first priority for the students. So because their education, their career should not suffer. So we had a recent meeting with the US embassy people. They also visited our campus. Even NSF Dr. Sedaraman Panjanathan also visited VIT.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. He visited, we awarded honorary doctorate. Dr. Sedaraman Panjanathan is now our alumni. And at that time, we had a golden opportunity to meet our embassy consul general of Chennai, US, and also other embassy staff. They told, we made this question on behalf of our students. So they very much clearly they told us, and we are giving top priority for student visa. So you don't get any confusion on this. You please apply on time and also submit your I-20 and other things, and they will process it. So they don't keep you waiting for visa processing. Yeah, that's the good news I can share you. Yeah, don't worry. You will join Lehigh on time and other universities as well. Yes.
Dr. Srinivasan is absolutely right. F1 visas are being prioritized at the embassy. If you guys are facing any problems, certainly ISSS, International Student Scholar Services, offices of all US universities are going to be very supportive. And if you write to Dr. Srinivasan and the Office of International Affairs at VIT, they can liaison on behalf of you with the consulate and, support you wherever you're finding problems. So don't worry about that. I would agree to that. Shall we go
There's
ahead
one last question, I think. Let me just quickly address that, which is about housing. So we do have both on-campus and off-campus housing. It's not actually a dorms. Dorms are for undergraduate students. The graduate student housing is a little more, I would say, sophisticated. But there's both off-campus and on-campus. So for the on-campus, is on the mountain, is on the other side of the mountain, and there's a bus that sort of comes pick students. When I first joined Lehigh, I used to live close to the graduate student housing, so I know how that works, and it's pretty good. The off-campus housing is what a lot of students do prefer because it's slightly cheaper. You live with roommates and so on, and it's not difficult finding housing, and there's usually plenty of opportunity very close to campus.
I totally agree. When I was at Lehigh, I met a few graduate students from India who were pursuing their internships actually in the fall, just before the start of the term. And they talked about, finding really reasonable, cheap housing close to campus. Lehigh is a beautiful town. And Lehigh is located in a beautiful town, and the costs are much lower. So if you go and live in New York, which is just 1.5 hours away from Lehigh, the costs are going to be exorbitant. But here I had a student tell me that just $500 is what they paid for the whole month in a sort of a sharing accommodation, which was really comfortable. So those opportunities are reasonable and very accessible. So one other student just wrote and asked, how do they get the application fee waiver? What is the procedure? So I can give the application fee waiver to anybody who writes to me for fall 2023 intake, summer 2023/fall 2023 intake for the data science program or any of our other programs in engineering. There are 15 MS programs that the Rosen College of Engineering offers and 11 doctoral programs. So please spread the message. We're happy to offer that to you by just drop in an email and tell us which program you're interested in applying to. Email ID is in the chat box. And if you have questions, reach out to Dr. Srinivasan. He will be able to guide you. If you have questions on your academics, please write to Dr. Parv. He's already provided his email ID and another generic email ID. So I think, Parv, shall we close now?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I have shared my email ID if anyone of you
thank you.
the question. And regarding the transfer program, you can reach our in future we may have a transfer program with the Lehigh. For that, you can reach our colleague Dr. I am sharing his email ID also. IR3. Mine is IR1. The program is IR3. Feel free to contact us. We will be happy to help you.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you
so much, Professor Srinivasan.
Mhm.
Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Parv. And thank you all the students for being here. Have a lovely year, and we look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to you applying to Lehigh. Thanks once again. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.